nandito tayo sa California!
Indian Wells is supposed to feel like tennis in the desert, wide skies, quiet space, and a crowd.
The Eala Tour takes over the desert. Alex Eala's wild Indian Wells run, revenge, glory, heartbreak, and history all in 1 week. Welcome back to Champions Tennisidics, the absolute #1 destination for the most electric, most passionate, and most unfiltered tennis content on the entire internet. And today, people, we are going deep. We are talking about the most talked about, most spectacular, most emotionally overwhelming week any Filipino athlete has produced on an international sports stage in years. We are talking about one young woman from the Philippines who flew into the California desert, walked into the biggest tennis tournament outside of the 4 Grand Slams, and proceeded to set the entire tennis world on absolute fire. I am of course talking about the one, the only, the incomparable Alexandra Alex Eala. Buckle up. Make sure your notifications are on. Tell your friends. Because what happened at Indian Wells in the first 2 weeks of March 2026 is the kind of story that they will be talking about for the next decade. Let's set the scene properly, because context is everything, and the story of Alex Eala at Indian Wells 2026 does not begin when she stepped onto the court for her first match. It begins days before the ball was even struck. Even before playing a single match at Indian Wells, Eala's supporters were packing out her practice sessions, filling the observation areas, waving Philippine flags, and chanting her name in the blazing California heat. Think about that for a second. This is a player ranked outside the top 30 in the world, and her practice sessions were drawing more spectators than some players' actual matches. That is not normal. That is phenomenon-level fandom. That is the kind of devotion you only see once in a generation. And why does it exist? To understand the earthquake that Alex Eala is causing inside professional tennis, you have to understand what she means to the Filipino people. Longtime Filipino sports journalist TJ Manitok explained it perfectly when he told reporters that the country has been hungry for the next Manny Pacquiao. When Pacquiao was at his peak, life literally stopped in the Philippines. When there was a fight, nothing moved on the roads and everyone was watching. That is the cultural and emotional power behind this story. The Philippines is a nation of over 100 million people who love their heroes with an intensity that is almost indescribable to the outside world. They have been waiting. And now, wrapped in a tennis skirt and armed with a left-handed backhand that could cut glass, their new hero has arrived. It is also worth noting that more than 10 million Filipinos live outside of the Philippines, including approximately 1.7 million in California alone, which explains in vivid detail why Indian Wells, sitting right there in the Southern California desert, became the stage for what might be the most extraordinary week of Eala's young career. Her people were there, her community was there, and she was about to give them everything they had ever dreamed of. Now, the first match. This was Eala's very first appearance at Indian Wells, and she became the first player from the Philippines ever to play a match in the main draw at the tournament. History, right there, before she even won a point. But history is not enough for Alex Eala. She does not just want to show up, she wants to win. With temperatures dipping in the desert and midnight fast approaching, Eala and her customary throng of passionate supporters refused to go anywhere as her encounter with Diana Yastremska stretched close to 3 hours. 3 hours. Late at night, in the cold California desert air. And those Filipino fans did not move an inch. A Laban Alex sign, meaning Fight Alex in Tagalog, was prominently displayed in the front row. The energy was electric, it was raw, and it was unlike anything Indian Wells had ever witnessed before. The match itself was an absolute roller coaster. Eala was almost out of the tournament. Yastremska broke for 5-4 in the third set and was serving for the match before Eala managed to break back. One of Yastremska's 15 double faults eventually helped Eala close it out in the final game. The final score was 7-5, 4-6, 7-5, and just before the clock struck midnight, the still sizable crowd roared in an ovation that shook the California night. Pure cinema. You could not script a better debut. The first ever Filipino to play a match in the Indian Wells main draw wins that match in 3 gut-wrenching sets at midnight in front of a sea of waving Philippine flags. If that isn't a movie, I don't know what is. After the win, a beaming Alex told reporters she felt great and that she just kept telling herself to keep fighting, that she was still in the match and she really had to dig deep for that one. Dig deep. That is the phrase that defines Alex Eala. That is her superpower. She does not panic when she is behind. She does not fold when the pressure is suffocating. She digs, and she finds something extra. Every single time. But the first round win, as spectacular as it was merely the appetizer. Because waiting in the third round was someone who had embarrassed Eala just 2 weeks prior. Someone who is one of the most famous athletes in all of women's sport. The fourth-seeded, two-time Grand Slam champion, American darling, Coco Gauff. And the entire world was watching. Let's talk about how he got here, because the backstory between Eala and Gauff in 2026 is absolutely compelling. Just weeks before Indian Wells, Gauff had absolutely dismantled Eala in the quarterfinals of the Dubai Tennis Championships, winning 6-0, 6-2. A total destruction. A statement. Some observers were already saying that the gap between Gauff and Eala was too large, that Eala was not yet ready to compete with the very top players on her best day.
For the tennis community in general to develop in certain countries where tennis is not as big as other.
But here is the thing about Alex Eala. She is the fastest learner in tennis. After that Dubai loss, Gauff herself gave a gracious shout-out to Eala's supporters, saying she knew they were mostly supporting Alex.
Into knowing it wasn't going to be pretty tennis all the time. So I think it just, with that mindset going in, it just makes you feel better necessarily when you aren't winning the points the way you kind of want to.
But that it was great to be on a crowded court, that she was grateful to Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. Think about the power in that statement. Even after winning convincingly, Gauff was publicly acknowledging that Alex Eala's presence was transforming the entire energy of the event. That speaks volumes. Now fast forward 2 weeks. The two were set to begin the night session at Stadium 1 in Indian Wells, the crown jewel of the tournament, and the matchup was the most eagerly anticipated clash of the entire event to that point. Eala had told reporters before the match that Coco was an amazing player and she was playing at home, so she was expecting a big crowd to rally behind her. She knew exactly what she was walking into. She was walking into Gauff's backyard, onto one of the most famous courts in tennis, against a player who had just embarrassed her on a desert court 6,000 miles away. And she walked in anyway, head high, fire in her eyes, ready for war. What happened next was breathtaking. From the very first games, it became clear that Eala had done her homework. Both players struggled early as serve proved difficult to hold, but Eala eventually found her rhythm and produced a sharp finishing burst to secure a crucial early break. From there, she dictated play with consistent depth and aggressive returns, breaking Gauff in all 4 of her service games in the opening set. The score was rapidly becoming alarming for the American. Gauff, who leads the entire WTA Tour in double faults in 2026 by a wide margin, shot herself in the foot with 7 double faults, all coming in that catastrophic first set. Eala was not just winning. She was completely dismantling the game plan of a 2-time Grand Slam champion. The first set ended 6-2, and the momentum felt like it was shifting dramatically and irreversibly in one direction. But then came a moment that cast a deep shadow over the entire dramatic storyline. It became apparent as early as the first set that Gauff was dealing with an injury when she called for a medical timeout for treatment on her left hand. The concern on the court was visible. As the second set began and Eala broke immediately to lead 2-0, Gauff described the pain afterward as scary, saying it felt like a firework was going off inside her arm before spreading through the rest of her limb. Nobody wants to win like that. Nobody wants the story to end that way. And Eala, to her immense credit, handled the moment with extraordinary grace. When Gauff told Eala at the net, "I'm sorry, I hate to do this," it was a moment of genuine sporting sadness that transcended the competition between the two players. But what Eala did immediately after cemented her status as something far greater than just a tennis player. On International Women's Day, March 8, 2026, on the biggest court she had ever competed on, with the cameras of the world trained on her face, she turned to the microphone and delivered one of the most beautiful post-match speeches in recent tennis memory. Eala said she wanted to thank all the incredible women who have paved the way and advocated for themselves and for other women, and among them was Coco. She described Gauff as an amazing competitor and an amazing role model, and she wished her a speedy recovery. Not a single syllable of gloating. Not a moment of self-promotion at the expense of a fallen opponent. She also used the moment to acknowledge her mother Riza, who was watching from the stands. She said she wanted to thank her for being the amazing woman that she is and for helping her become the woman that she is, and that went for all mothers. And then came the moment that destroyed every single person watching. Riza responded by blowing kisses back toward her daughter from the stands. Camera cuts to a mother in tears, blowing kisses to her baby girl, who is standing on one of the greatest stages in professional sport. If you were not emotional watching that, you genuinely need to check your pulse. The win was historic in its own right. It was Eala's third top 5 victory in under a year, and she became the first player from the Philippines to reach the round of 16 at Indian Wells. History. Again, like she simply cannot stop making it. Because she cannot. And in the midst of all of this sporting drama, the Eala Tour phenomenon was reaching new levels that were making even the most seasoned tennis insiders stop and stare. A day in the life video featuring Eala posted to the BNP Paribas Open's official YouTube channel became the tournament's most watched content of the entire 2026 event by a massive margin. The Indian Wells tournament itself was posting her on their Instagram as one of only 9 women in the class of 2026, alongside 7 top 10 players and 1 well-known American. Tournament executive Philippe Dor told reporters directly that they loved every minute of it, that they benefited from it, and that they were actively promoting it. The tournament director himself was out there raving about Alex Eala. That does not happen for players ranked outside the top 30. That only happens for once-in-a-generation draws. Tournament director Tommy Haas, the former world number 2, was also visibly moved to comment on the extraordinary level of support surrounding Eala and fellow young star João Fonseca of Brazil, saying he had never witnessed that level of committed fan attendance at Indian Wells before. Never. In all his years as a player and as a tournament director, he had never seen anything like what the Filipino fans were bringing to the desert. That is not a small statement. That is a full-throated testament to the passion of a nation. Now, Eala was riding this enormous wave of energy, love, and momentum into the 4th round against Linda Noskova, the 14th-ranked Czech powerhouse. And this is where the story takes a turn that is brutally honest, emotionally complicated, and in many ways the most important chapter of the entire Indian Wells saga. Because tennis is a sport that gives you absolutely no hiding place. You win or you lose. And on that evening in the California desert, Alex Eala lost. Hard. Eala's debut campaign at Indian Wells ended with a painful 0-6, 2-6 defeat to Noskova. The Czech player came out with controlled aggression and precision that Alex simply could not match on the night. Eala's first serve was the critical weakness, as she made only 57% of her first serves and won just 36% of those points. When a player of Noskova's caliber is picking apart your second serve all night, the score can spiral very quickly. And it did. But here is what separates a champion from everyone else. Here is the moment that told you exactly who Alex Eala truly is at her core. When she sat in front of the press after that humbling defeat, she did not cry. She did not deflect. She did not make excuses. She looked those cameras dead in the eye and delivered a statement that was 10 times more impressive than any tennis shot she had struck all week. In November, capitalizing on the country's surging interest in tennis sparked almost entirely by Eala's rise, the WTA announced the creation of the Philippine Women's Open, a 125-level event held in January. It marked the country's first ever WTA tournament. Tickets for the final were already sold out before Eala had even confirmed her participation. That is the ripple effect of one person's brilliance, courage, and willingness to carry an entire nation on their shoulders with a smile on their face. Before Alex Eala broke through, the Philippines had no WTA tournament. Now they have one, and it sells out before the star of the show even confirms she is coming. That is cultural transformation powered by athletic excellence. Eala currently has close to 1 million followers on Instagram, more than double that of higher-ranked players like Jessica Pegula, Madison Keys, and Amanda Anisimova. The traditional metrics of tennis fame, ranking, results, prize money, have been completely shattered by the Alex Eala phenomenon. She is operating in an entirely different dimension of public resonance, and the sports organizers know it. They are leaning into it because they understand that what she brings is something money cannot manufacture. It is authenticity. It is genuine, unfiltered passion. It is the raw emotion of a nation finally seeing one of its own compete and win at the highest levels of a global sport. Eala and Brazil's João Fonseca brought raucous Filipino and Brazilian crowds to Indian Wells throughout their respective runs, and their presence fundamentally changed the atmosphere of the tournament in a way that longtime veterans had never experienced before. Two young stars from countries that have never traditionally produced tennis champions, walking into the cathedral of the sport and filling it with a noise and a passion and an electricity that the game has desperately needed for years. This is the new tennis. This is the future. And Alex Eala is leading the charge. As the dust settles on Indian Wells 2026, every conversation in the tennis world is already turning toward Miami. Because Miami is where it all started. Miami is where, just 1 year ago, a wildcard Alex Eala walked into a tournament as an afterthought and walked out as a superstar, defeating Iga Swiatek, Madison Keys, and Yelena Ostapenko on her way to an astonishing semifinal run. Miami is the place where the Eala Tour was born, and now she is heading back not as a newcomer, not as a wild card, not as a curiosity. She is heading back as a warrior who knows exactly what she is capable of. Eala reflected on what Miami meant to her, saying it was a beautiful time and it was the start of all of this, but that since then she had achieved a lot and grown a lot. And let us take a moment to acknowledge something good beautiful that happened in the middle of all this and so much experience since then. In her post-match speech after beating Gauff confidence on International Women's Day, and that she knows Alexandra Eala did not take the easy road of pure triumphalism. The question everyone is now asking is just how high she chose generosity. The numbers are pointing toward the top women who came before the clay season ends. She honored her opponent. The performances are pointing toward a speedy recovery. Gauff later described her retirement as a disappointing way to finish and said the injury was unlike something she will not say out loud just yet, but something every single person who has watched her this season can feel building inside her with every match, every press conference, every flag waved in the stands by the people who love her. Grand Slam deep runs, maybe a Grand Slam final, maybe the moment that stops every single car on every single road in the Philippines the way Pacquiao's fights once did. The Alex Eala story is not a chapter that is finished. It is barely past the prologue. She is 20 years old. She will not turn 21 until May. She has already defeated 4 Grand Slam champions, become the highest-ranked Filipina in tennis history, headlined sold-out tournaments across 2 continents, won the first WTA event ever held in her home country, and sent the Indian Wells tournament director into genuine rhapsodies about her influence on the game. All before she has won a major title. All before she has reached her peak. All before the absolute best is yet to come. What Alex Eala accomplished at Indian Wells 2026 was not defined only by wins and losses. It was defined by the way she walked in, head high, representing every single Filipino who was watching from every corner of the globe. It was defined by the grace she showed her opponent on International Women's Day, when she could have celebrated and instead she uplifted. It was defined by the love she showed her mother in the stands. It was defined by the unblinking courage she showed in the press room after the toughest night of her young career, refusing to crumble, refusing to make excuses, and instead planting her flag right in the middle of the desert and declaring to the entire world with absolute certainty, "I know that I belong here." And she does. She absolutely, undeniably, magnificently belongs here. The desert of Indian Wells has seen some of the greatest champions in the history of tennis walk its courts. Roger Federer, Serena Williams, Rafael Nadal, Steffi Graf, all have made this stage their throne at various points in history. And now, a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines has walked onto those same courts for the very first time, made history before she struck her first ball, fought until midnight on her debut, avenged a lopsided loss against one of the biggest names in the sport, delivered the most heartfelt speech of the tournament on Women's Day, and then dusted herself off after a brutal defeat and told the world with complete clarity that this is only the beginning. Champions Tennisitics will be following every single step of Alex Eala's journey as she heads into the Miami Open, the site of her first great breakthrough, the stage where the phenomenon truly ignited, in the arena where a champion returns not as a newcomer, but as a warrior carrying the pride of over 100 million people. The Revenge Tour is real. The ascent is undeniable. The Eala Tour rolls on, and we will be right here to cover every breathtaking moment of it. Now it is your turn. We want to hear from you, and we genuinely mean that. Do you think Alex Eala will go even deeper at Miami than she did last year? Can she push into the top 20 before the clay season begins? And where do you see the ceiling for this extraordinary young woman? Drop your most passionate, most fired up comments down below right now. Show your Pinoy pride. Show your tennis love. Show us what this community is made of, because this channel only grows when all of you bring your incredible energy and passion to the conversation. If this video fired you up the way it fired us up putting it together, do us a solid and absolutely smash that like button right now. Every single like helps this story reach more people, and a story this good deserves to be seen by the entire world. Subscribe to Champions Tennisistics if you have not already, and hit that notification bell so you are the very first person to know when we drop our Miami coverage. Because trust us, with Alex Eala heading back to the city where her legend was born, what is coming next is going to be absolutely spectacular. This is Champions Tennisistics. The Eala Tour is just getting started. We will see you next time.